Hello, and thank you for joining Module 3 of the Temporary Residence course. My name is Eduardo Silva. I'm your instructor today, and we're going to talk about postgraduate work permits. But first, for the people that don't know me yet, I am an immigration consultant. I'm also a mediator. I am a professional in law enforcement studies, human rights, and also advanced dispute resolution. The idea is to have a comprehensive overview of the postgraduate work permit applications. According to the course outlined after this module, the learner will be able to analyze the requirements for obtaining a postgraduate work permit, including eligibility criteria, required documents, validity, and the application process. They will be able to develop an understanding of the legal framework, the regulations, and the practical application of operational instructions and requirements for postgraduate work permit applications. But before we start, I would like to acknowledge that the land from which I'm speaking today has been the traditional land of the Huron-Wendat, the Seneca, and most recently the Mississauga of the Craig River. And today, this is still the home of many indigenous people from across Turtle Island. And we are grateful to have the opportunity to be part of this land. So the main goal of this module is to understand general requirements and operational instructions to apply for a postgraduate work permit and avoid mistakes or refusals in applications. We're going to discuss tips and recent changes of the Canadian postgraduate work permit requirements. Okay, but first, I would like to start with a question. I would like to know your perception of what is a postgraduate work permit. So the postgraduation work permit, we know that is designated for temporary residents. So Immigration, Refugees, and Citizenship Canada process this application under what of the following categories? Please answer these questions. You have 20 seconds. A, temporary resident visas, B, international students, C, temporary workers, or D, temporary resident permits. So thank you for answering this question. So we have some results, and 10% of you said that Immigration, Refugees, and Citizenship Canada process this application under the temporary resident visas. 35% said international students, 45% said temporary workers, and 10% said temporary resident permits. And the correct answer is international students. So Immigration Canada process these applications under international students, which are temporary residents, but postgraduate work permits are under the category of work for international students. So let's talk about the definition. The operational instructions for temporary residents define postgraduate work permits as a program that allows students who have graduated from eligible Canadian designated learning institutions to obtain an open work permit to gain valuable Canadian work experience. This is probably for the purpose to gain uh, qualifications for permanent residency applications in Canada through the Canadian Experience class within Express Entry. So by this point, we all know the Immigration and Refugee Protection Regulations, the IRPR. So the law or the supporting regulatory framework that covers the post-graduation work permit is this subparagraph 205C2. So section 205 C2 says that a work permit may be issued under Section 200 for a foreign national who intends to perform work. That is is designated by the minister as being work that can be performed by a foreign national on the basis of the following criteria, and limited access to the Canadian labor market is necessary for reasons of public policy relating to the competitiveness of Canadian academic institutions or economy. So in that case, let's take a look at the actual uh, section. So under Canadian interest, 205, as I mentioned, our permit may be issued under Section 200 to a foreign national who intends to perform work that. So in this case, it doesn't apply that A, because postgraduate work permits are not meant to create significant social, cultural, or economic benefits or opportunities for Canadian citizens, and also does not create or maintain reciprocal employment of Canadian citizens or permanent residents of Canada in other countries. So in this case, it falls under C, which is designated by the minister as being work that can be performed by a foreign national on the basis of these criteria. And the criteria that is connected to postgraduate work permits are limited access to the Canadian labor market is necessary for reasons of public policy relating to competitiveness of Canada academic institutions or economy. So now let's talk about validity. Validity means the time that the postgraduate work permit can be accepted for. So the length of the permit. So the program of study, if the program of study is at least 8 months and less than 2 years, so the length of the work permit should be equal to the length of the program. So let's say a person started a diploma course of uh, 12 months. 12 months means obviously 1 year, so the postgraduate work permit is going to be accepted for 1 year. So, but if the program of study is 2 years or longer, the length of the program is confirmed by the institution. So then the length of the work permit should be 3 years. So a maximum of 3 years for programs that are 2 years or longer. Also, we have cases where let's say the student completed more than one program from different institutions within the 2 years. So combining the institutions or combining the program is 2 years or longer, the work permit might be valid for 3 years. Let's try another question. Let's try a case scenario. So this is Maria's application for a study permit to study business management in a designated learning institution, and she has been accepted. She will start her studies on May 23, and she will be graduating on May 2025. So her passport expires in May 2027. What would be the validity period of her postgraduate work permit? A, 8 months, B, 18 months, C, 2 years, and D, 3 years. Okay, so according to your answers, 5% said 8 months, 25% of you said 18 months, 20% of you said 2 years, answered 2 years, and 50% answered 3 years. And the correct answer is so the correct answer is C, 2 years. In this case, the applicant completed 2 years of studies in a designated learning institution. However, the passport expiry date is 2 years from the moment of the graduation. So for that reason, the postgraduate work permit will be allowed only um, for the 2 years until the expiry date of the passport. So other factors that influence validity is the accelerated studies. Let's say when a student has completed their studies faster or in a short period of time. So, but the length of the program or the length of the postgraduate work permit should be assessed on the length of the program of study. So also distance learning, they are ineligible if more than 50% of the program was completed online. And if less than 50% of the program was online, the validity should be based on the length of the program. And also if they transfer from one institution to another, there must be at least 8 months of studies in the transfer. And there are some uh, courses that have overseas component, and the length of the post-graduation work permit is based on the length of the time they study in Canada. In general, a post-graduation work permit might be issued based on the length of the program for a minimum of 8 months to a maximum of 3 years. The validity cannot go beyond the passport expiry date, and the applicant can apply to extend the work permit when the length of that permit cannot be provided. And also, the officers may consider the duration of the program of study in Canada and confirm it with supporting documents. So eligibility to be eligible for a postgraduate work permit, the applicant needs to understand they can only apply for a postgraduate work permit or they can only obtain one postgraduate work permit in their lifetime. They have to have graduated from a public post-secondary institution. There's a list of eligible institutions, with the exception of Quebec in some cases. They have to complete an academic program at, uh, at an eligible institution that is at least 8 months in duration. That leads to a degree, diploma, or certificate. And they have to maintain full time student status in Canada. And also, they have to receive a transcript and an official letter from the institution confirming that they have met the requirements to complete the program. Also, they must apply within the 180 days after completing the program, and they must meet one of the following. They must hold a valid study permit, or they have held a study permit in the past, and they were authorized to study in Canada without the requirement to obtain a study permit. So here are some reasons why applicants can be ineligible: because they have previously been issued a post-graduation work permit, or they have received funding, participated in some government awards, obtained scholarships for Canada and Chile, some exchange program, participating in exchange programs, participating in the Organization of American States, or they have completed the majority of the credits of the program. They have completed these credits online, or if the study was delivered by a non-Canadian institution located in Canada. Also, they are ineligible if they study English as a second language or French as a second language program, and or they study general interest courses for self-improvement, or a course or program of study at a private career college. Let's talk about supporting documents. Here's a list of general supporting documents: proof of payment, valid passport, degree or diploma, forms, etc. But we are going to take a closer look of that with the document checklist. So the document checklist is clear. Students applying for a work permit, they must complete the forms, the application to change conditions form, use of representative if they have one, photocopies of passport, photocopies of travel documents, and photocopies of current immigration documents like the study permit, for example. Also, they need from the institution, they need to get a final transcript and a letter from the institution for formal notice of graduation. Um, so, uh, as well as the proof of payment is necessary. Remember that the proof of payment is $100 Canadian for the open work permit, and in addition to the Canadian to $155 for the work permit processing fees. And the application process is quite simple. It has to be online. In some cases, they can be on paper due to disability or other problems, but it must be online. You have to gather all documents, complete application forms, pay processing fees, as I mentioned, and submit the application. It's recommended to apply at least 30 days before the expiry of your current document. And some common mistakes to avoid are not having the required documents, applying too late, working for ineligible employers. So the your postgraduate work permit can be revoked if they know that you're working for employers that are not acceptable. Um, Failing to meet eligibility requirements, if you're missing some signatures, incorrect fee payment. Sometimes they forget to pay, they only pay for the open work permit and they forget to pay for the work permit processing fees. Unclear documents, medical conditions, or criminal problems. These two are very important as well for admissibility. So some extras that you need to know when you apply for a postgraduate work permit is that temporary resident visas are not issued when a postgraduate work permit is approved. So you must apply for the temporary resident visa after receiving the postgraduate work permit. Um, the applicant can work while waiting for a decision under paragraph 186 of the Immigration and Refugee Protection Regulations. And if they are planning to leave the country, they must have a temporary resident visa or electronic travel authorization to re-enter Canada. And if the applicant took a period of leave that was authorized, they must include documentation providing why the leave was authorized. So here we have some questions that I would like to discuss with you. And the first question is, a valid study permit is necessary to apply for a postgraduate work permit? What do you think? Can you apply by paper? Does the applicant need a job offer to apply for a postgraduate work permit? Uh, Proof of financial support, do you think is needed if they don't have a job offer? Is the applicant in good health and admissible? This is important to know. Please take a moment and let's answer these questions, and then we can discuss your answers. And lastly, we have a case scenario. You're going to be working on this case scenario and answer the following questions. Why was the application refused? And what would you do afterward? So take a look at the scenario, and there is a list of documents that the applicant provided, and please let me know what do you think was the actual mistake. So thank you for joining this module. I hope you liked all the information. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to email me, and I will answer those questions to you. Or you can also call me on office hours. Thank you and have a good night.